do you like skipping videos? Do you not know that the clock is ticking very fast? Let's see the level of your conscience. Now, listen to this to the end. Every day we live as though we have 9 lives intact, yet we have no control over the next second. We walk, we talk, we chase dreams, all the while oblivious to the thin thread holding us to this fragile life. Mr. Kenneth was no different. It was a scorching afternoon, and the sun blazed down on the busy street of Fulham. He was walking, minding his own business, waving through the bustling crowd, when suddenly his eyes caught a sight that made him stop in his tracks. People were gathered, a small crowd forming in the middle of the street. In the center, a man lay motionless on the ground, his face blank, his body still. Kenneth couldn't help but step aside, retreating to a corner to get a better view of the scene. As he stared, a cold realization began to creep up his spine. What if it was me? His thought ran wide. The crowd's murmur seemed to fade, and in his mind, he was already picturing himself lying on that floor, lifeless, surrounded by strangers who knew nothing about him. In that moment, Kenneth saw beyond the noise of life and the busy streets. He saw his funeral, back in Nigeria, his native land. He imagined his body being flown across the seas, laid to rest in the soil where his ancestors were buried. But what of the thing he would leave behind? His beautiful mansion, the gleaming cars parked in his driveway, his loving wife, and his joyful children who adored him. All the wealth, all the material success he had worked so hard to gather over the years. What would it mean then? Absolutely nothing. It would all be vanity, a fleeting dream, washed away like dust in the wind. Life, he realized, is a mere vapor. We chase after possessions, status, and the power, believing they will give us purpose. But the truth is, we are simply passing through, each moment a step on a journey to fulfill the call and service of our Creator. Our lives are borrowed, and our existence is not guaranteed beyond the next breath. Kenneth's heart raced as these thoughts gripped him. He wanted to shout, to warn everyone around him. Stop! Pause and think. One day, it will be you lying there, motionless, without the ability to chase what comes next. Today is a stranger lying on the ground. Tomorrow, it could be you. Are you ready? He looked around at the face of the crowd, busy watching the scene, but blind to the deeper reality. You may be him tomorrow, Kenneth whispered to himself. In that moment, he resolved to live differently, not for the temporary pleasure of life, but for the eternal purpose given by God. As he turned and walked away, his mind was set on a new mission, to remind others of this truth. Now is your turn. Don't skip this message. Share this with 5 people if you wish to live with a clearer purpose. And never forget, life is short, the clock is ticking fast, and tomorrow is not promised. The question is, are you ready?